Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. A new paper called Mindless: What Happened to Universities takes a hard look at how decades of structural changes in higher education have led to a crisis. Cary Nelson argues that universities are at a breaking point, threatening not just Jewish and Israeli students, but the very future of academic freedom. Professor Emeritus Cary Nelson joins me in the studio now. Welcome very much.
Happy to be here.
Your first visit to the UK in 20 years.
Right.
Do you mind just telling our audience a little bit about your history?
Well, I mean, I saw myself for many years as someone on the left, and I still hold progressive values. I believe in universal health care, which probably there aren't too many of you who would object to that principle, but the U.S. is a long way from recognizing that. It's common in the U.S. to think that you deserve health care if you can afford to pay for it.
But you've also been arrested for standing up for your union.
I stood up. I worked for 20 years while I was teaching. I organized graduate students for collective bargaining and also contingent or sessional faculty, as you call them, that is people who weren't hired permanently. And basically graduate students, graduate employees do a lot of teaching in American universities. And, you know, they often, at the period when we were working, they often had no health care. They often had no job security at all. And they really didn't have guarantees of due process. If they got in difficulty, they couldn't count for someone advocating for them, someone professionally speaking on their behalf. And so really, and they often were paid slave wages, to say the best, less than minimum wage. So they needed advocates, and so I helped them organize for collective bargaining. During that time, I never had, because I traveled the whole country doing that, I never once experienced anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism among the groups that I was helping to organize. Sadly, the very unions I've helped to organize have now shifted toward anti-Zionism. That one can define anti-Zionism for these people as hatred of Israel that transforms itself into hatred of Jews worldwide. And, you know, that's been a general transformation on the international left, certainly in the US. And for me, it's been extremely painful to watch because I've been committed to Zionism since I was a child. My father organized and became the president of 2 synagogues. You know, we had some commitments that are built into me.
I don't think people understand how Zionism as a political movement actually very much started on the left. And in terms of, you know, you had kibbutzes, which are arguably communist in scope, and then it was only later on that it seems now that being a Zionist somehow makes you far right, according to some people.
Kibbutzim, some were connected with the party. They're much more commonly socialist. That is, you know, committed to socialist principles, and a few still survive in exactly that form, some of which were, of course, violently assaulted by Hamas. So, I mean, the left for me meant a series of progressive values. I believed in the necessity of income redistribution, that the poor deserve some of the wealth of the country, not just the fate of their families and their education. So being on the left meant really a series of progressive forms of social progress. But the left is now much more focused obsessively on what it opposes. The left was once about what it was for. Now it's, as much as anything else, what it's against. And what it's against, alas, includes Israel. What it's against is not a good philosophical basis for a political movement. It's a good basis for antagonism. It's a good basis for hostile debate, but it isn't a good basis in which to imagine a future. You can't think of how society should grow and what changes society should make if what you are is focused on hating. And that's, unfortunately, a lot of what's become of the left, and it's also become, unfortunately, what faculty members who see themselves on the left and teach in universities do. You know, 20 years ago, well, let's say 25 years ago, I really never thought of education as indoctrination. And when people made that claim to me, I said, I don't think so. I said, there may be gestures toward that, but overall, higher education supports open debate. It welcomes controversy. It welcomes challenges to ideas. But now too many faculty members feel they know the absolute truth. And what they want to do is impose that truth on their students. That's not education. You're supposed to get students to think about issues and then to make up their own mind. Now, this is not by any means all disciplines. It's not true of the sciences. It's not true of the STEM fields. But it is widely true of the humanities, my own fields, that have adopted these forms of intellectual and political conviction and then decided to try to impose them on their students. It's very destructive, and there are things that colleges and universities need to do to try to change that pattern. It's going to be hard work. And one of the things this book, this sort of cute little book, I'm very fond of the color, mindless, very easy to remember that. And the Jewish Journal issues 4 of these books each year, one by a single author, in this case by me. So, if you subscribe, you get these rather attractive little, almost pocket-sized books that you can read about. The next one's going to be about Zionism. It will try to redefine Zionism for the contemporary moment. But there are, to go back to the key point, first of all, there are several humanities disciplines, some social science disciplines, that have now become thoroughly committed to the hatred of the state of Israel. Anthropology has become a discipline committed to convincing its students that Israel is great evil. Middle East studies is gone. It's lost. It can't be repaired. It has to be set aside and allowed to die out slowly and then be replaced by a more open form of debate. And women's studies, unfortunately, has gone that way as well. By 2015, the National Organization for Women's Studies issued an incredibly hostile, formal statement opposing Israel. So imagine you're a student at a university. You enter a department like anthropology or women's studies, and you go to the main page, and the department declares, we are opposed to the Jewish state. We think that it's committing genocide. We think that it is fundamentally evil. We think you can't fix the Jewish state. There's no policies you can get them to change. You simply have to eliminate it. If you're a Zionist student, how do you function in that department? How do you take courses? How do you write papers? How do you feel that your opinions will be respected? People can debate opinions in the academy. That's what it's all about. But you can't declare that your students are advocates of evil, which is what happens to Zionist students in these departments. And that's something we're going to have to work at. I think there are some specific things we can do. I really think adopting the IRA definition of anti-Semitism is a great help, especially because it has 11 examples. And the students can discuss those examples, they can debate them, but it gives them categories. Anti-Semitism changes all the time. It's amorphous. It's often confusing to people. But that IRA definition gives you 11 contemporary forms of anti-Semitism. So you encounter a statement and you ask, does it fit into the 11 examples or does it not? Does it really belong there or can it be excused? And they're very sensible. So the IRA definition says that any criticism of Israel that's similar to things you would say about other countries is not anti-Semitic. Yeah. You can criticize that, and like you can criticize Britain or any other country.
I just want to widen the scope here, because the argument goes that Jews are the canary in the coal mine. In this case, you talk about the ideological capture of universities in America. Also, we've seen it in the UK as well. What's the impact beyond Zionism or beyond anti-Zionism? Is this just this one topic that then leads to a cessation of debate in other arenas as well, and that's how this impacts people?
Yeah, unfortunately, anti-Zionism has become the center of a process by which the university is being transformed. And so the polarization of the university, that is the division of faculty opinion that's sharp and divided and intolerant of one another. The patterns on British campuses 35 British campuses that we saw in spring 2024, which exemplified the same patterns we saw at 150 American campuses, where students felt there was a right point of view and a wrong point of view. And if you were on the wrong side of that divide, you needn't be respected. You needn't be tolerated. Faculty members began to take the position, especially this group called Faculty in Support of Palestine, they began to take the position that if the university asked them to serve on a committee, assigned them to do committee work, and they found out there was a Zionist faculty member of the committee, they should refuse to walk in the room. I won't sit with him. I won't talk to him.
And 96% of Jews.
So you begin to see, once you see Middle East in black and white terms, you start to see the rest of your intellectual life in the same way, and the coherence of the model of what university education should be disintegrates. So everything begins to become polarized.
I think that's exactly the point. I'm afraid we are going to have to leave you. Good luck. You also believe giving a talk tomorrow at Houses of Parliament, and good luck with your book. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Join us.